Hi everyone, this is Lucy, dating coach and matchmaker. And today we are going to be talking about topic how to communicate your past relationships with your current partner. And I have a very special guest with me. This is Tal, and I will give him words to introduce himself.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, thanks for having me here. And my name's Tal Ratcliffe. I'm a love and relationship coach, and my main focus is actually on helping people during and after breakups and divorces, and doing the work to see what was going on in those relationships, to learn about yourself so that you can grow and become even more evolved in your relationships and show up in a good way in the future. And so this topic of talking about the past is really something that's very close to the work I do, and I feel it's one of the most important things you can do as you prepare for a new relationship to find the love you really want.
So let's jump in and let's ask a big important question: when to communicate the past relationships with your current partner. From my experience, a lot of my clients come to me and they tell me that many people would communicate this on a first date. And I usually tell them that this is not a time to discuss past relationships. But if the topic comes on the table and you have to address it, always address it very lightly and make sure that it's addressed, but doesn't go in a very deep topic on that. So tell us more about when to communicate past relationship with your partner.
Sure. Yeah, so I think, this topic, it's a sensitive one. It's very intimate in a very real way, right? You're telling this other person about your past deep relational experiences. So it's not something to get into necessarily the first time you're meeting somebody. So as you shared, maybe just do just the facts, like here's the details in the most basic level that someone could almost find out by, looking on Google or something about you. But anything more than that, you'd say, I'd love to talk about that more in the future, but let's get to know each other a little bit more first, just, in the present moment, like how we just relate and how we vibe. I mean, it's sort of not that different, in terms of conversational topics. Like, this is a deep one. It's sort of like physical intimacy. You might not go that far on the first date. It's kind of like, even if you're interested, right? It's like, this is interesting to me, but let's wait. So this is a kind of similar dynamic. Like, I'm interested to talk about that with you, but I'd like to wait a little longer. And again, that's a sign of like this other person. If they're willing to wait, that's a good sign. If they're pushing you, that could be a red flag. If they're like, they need to get everything out right away.
Very good, thank you. But before we also go into how, let's address the why. And the why we should communicate the past relationships is that, one of the things, you want to create healthy communication with your partner. And the other thing that I would point out is that it's past relationships shape you, shape who you are, and you want to communicate this with your partner. But I would like to can you tell us more about why people should communicate this?
Yeah, so again, if let's just say you are dating somebody and they don't want to bring it up on the first date, like as opposed to what you're saying, some people really want to get into it right away and some people just want to avoid it, right? That's also a red flag. If somebody says, I don't want to talk about any of my past relationships or my past marriage or whatever, I'm over and done with that, I'm a new person, that kind of, it sounds attractive on some level, right? But I think we all know after a certain age that's not true. As much as we might want to believe that we've just like left something quote unquote behind, that's almost more likely to influence us to be reacting to what happened. So the why of this is really, first of all, for you to get it for yourself so you can walk with that in the world as you're dating and meeting people, but also so that when you meet people, you can get an immediate sense of how well they've integrated their past relationship experiences by how they share about it with you. And so it's almost the why of this is so important, because I think, there's probably many litmus tests that you might have for somebody when you're just starting to date, like are they meeting certain needs I have or certain ways of being, but I would say this is an essential one. If the person you're dating is not willing to talk about their past relationships, or when they do, it feels really bad to you, you're like, oh, that's icky, I'd say that's a red flag.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. There's, I'll address the red flags you should be watching when you're dating somebody. When somebody is not honest and not being themselves and they're hiding something, basically, you should definitely see that as a red flag and address that topic. So let's talk about how to communicate it, because that's the biggest thing. And I know sometimes there can be a fear around it. Because sometimes the past relationships might not be as pink as we wish they were, but how to communicate it? What's the best way to communicate the topic about past relationships?
Yeah, totally. This can be a very challenging conversation for some of us. I can speak for myself. The reason I got into the work I do is because I had several fairly catastrophic endings to relationships, and I was like, I need to find a better way to do this, which is how I got into the work I do, to help guide people to do this better, to break up or divorce in a way that's loving and compassionate and kind. So I've had to share my stories with women that I've been dating, and it's been a journey to find out how to do that. And I think, like you said, acknowledging that it may bring up it's a vulnerable thing. It may bring up some fear. You may be worried that if you tell them the truth, the other person will no longer be interested. But like you're saying, if we're going to create a viable long-term relationship with somebody, they need to be able to hold us in our truth, right? And that's why in the beginning of the conversation we said, not the first date. This is not first date material necessarily, unless you've known the person for a long time, you've been deep friends, and maybe you'd go there. But otherwise, you want to wait until you feel like, I'm going to open myself up. Just like you might open yourself up for sex. It's like you want to wait until it feels appropriate to share. Hey, let's take some time, set aside, a couple of hours to have this conversation. Let yourself feel into it. It's not something to rush through. And if, there's really a genuine connection there, you want to feel held by the other person and accepted, even when you share things that they might find kind of like, whoa, wow, I can't believe that happened to you, or that you chose that, or because we all have stories that maybe we're not as proud of as we'd like to be, but it's what happened, and we need to own it and say, like, yeah, I regret that, I wouldn't choose that again, and here's what I've learned.
Yes, definitely. The communication creates the intimate relationship with your partner, and it is one of the strongest topics that you really need to communicate. So I hope you all got a very good feedback on how to communicate, why to communicate past relationship with your partner. Thank you, Tal, for joining me today.
Thank you.
And I will say, everybody, look at the links below, and you can learn more about our work, and maybe you can share with us how the communication with your partner went, and what did you learn about yourself. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, and if you're having trouble sharing those stories, please feel free to reach out to me, and I could help you kind of shape that and do that in a way that the other person might be able to hear in a good way.
All right.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey.